All right, everybody. Welcome back to Phenomenal Conversations with Mr. Short. Today, I am joined by Ashley B. Patton of Patton University today. So, Ashley, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for putting the emphasis on city at the end of our name.
So I saw, I looked at your degree in college was in marketing. Is that kind of why you did the city part? Understanding marketing?
No, it's funny.
Part?
It was not. You would hope that was my idea because I thought it was very clever. No, that was my husband's idea. And so we just ran with it because I really liked it. And I was like, I should have come up with that because that was really clever to put city. And it was really a technicality. We could not file as a business with the university name because we were not an actual university and they do not allow you to file that way. So we changed it to a C to allow it to push through.
That does stand out. So, all right. So the question I always ask to start off any phenomenal conversation is, what led you to become an educator? So we just mentioned that you had a degree in marketing. So what led you to become an educator?
Because I was really trying to go away from education. Every female in my family is an educator. So I was like, I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to do something different. Actually, one of my aunts, she worked in the music industry and I liked, just the path she was on and I wanted to do something similar. So that's what led me to marketing. I was supposed to major in communications and she suggested marketing. And so there I went. I really enjoyed going to school. Getting my marketing degree was the best thing I've ever done. It was a great experience. I don't think had I gone to school for education, I would have liked college as much. Went on to get my master's also in marketing. Still loved it, loved the experience, had an internship there that was really awesome in marketing. I don't know, when I came back home from getting my degree, teaching called me. In Houston, marketing was not big. It wasn't a big thing back when I got my master's degree in 2008. It just wasn't a big thing here in Houston. It wasn't easy to find those marketing jobs unless you wanted to go be a party promoter. And that's just not my style. So I couldn't do it. And so I took a position as an interventionist at one of the area schools here in Houston. And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed going with those children every single day. It sounds so cliche, but the kids is why you come back. They're the reason that you come back. The principal walked in one day on one of my sessions, and when it was over, he was like, all right, come to my office and let's talk because I have a job for you next year. And it's just been that ever since.
Okay. So I think, trust me, I kind of have a similar story. So it's kind of just weird how that would get you as far as you're like, oh, I just know I want to do this. And then everybody in my family is an educator. You're like, no, I'm not going to do this. And I'm not going to teach. And then you're like, oh, I'm working with the kids. Like, oh, I think I'm going to teach. Like, so I get that. All right. So let's talk about, I guess, your first official job as a teacher, a classroom teacher, not as an interventionist. Talk about that first year. So that 90% of your kids passed the tax test, which is the precursor to the STAR. That's what everybody hears about now. So talk about how you led your kids to be able to do that first year.
I think I was just myself. I walked in there and I was genuinely myself. And the way I talk to my students is much like a conversation that I'm having with you. We have just conversations about all the skills. And that's what we did that first year. It's my first year. You don't know what you're doing. I had no clue what I was doing. So the best thing I could do was pull from who I was. And so, hey, you want me to teach main idea? Well, we just sat down, we read books together. We had conversations about main idea. It wasn't so, how do you put it? So strict, like the district wanted me to teach it. They want you to teach it with all of these different resources and pull from here and pull from there. Write this in a journal, put this in it was too many different things. And so what was easy for me was to just teach it to them like we're just having a conversation. I mean, it's how you would teach them anything else. So, right. And it worked. It worked very well. Students who were not projected to pass that year passed with flying colors. That was back when the district they were giving really big money for getting your kids to pass those tests. So making that money was definitely an incentive to keep it up.
Man, I don't think people understand as far as, and it's not to diss the math teachers out there, and I might even be teaching math soon myself, but at the same time, I think ELA teachers, we have a special thing where something about teaching ELA and being able to get kids to pass at a high clip. It seems like it's a little more difficult, but That's not to diss into the math teachers out there, but it is a little bit.
And I have taught math, and math is not easy to get them to pass because they genuinely don't get it. So
yeah,
it's not
so
easy.
it could be. Oh yeah, that could be challenging, especially if they can't read. So that's
right.
So it's weird, even when it comes to that. So I think the next year I saw where 80% of your kids passed, and then of course the conversion to STAR. So tell me about that, like that conversion to the STAR test, because I wasn't even teaching when that happened. So talk about that conversion from the tax, which I understand wasn't as hard, and to the STAR test was just highly rigorous test.
That's what they said. I didn't really, I mean, I noticed the difference, but not a difference to where I couldn't get the kids to pass it. Because again, once STAR, I actually left teaching for a hot minute. I had a baby and took time off with her. And when I came back was when STAR was implemented, once I had made it back around to the classroom. And it didn't seem like that big major of a difference because I still approached it the same way. Had the conversation, we had just basic conversation, not so many resources. We used what we used and it wasn't bouncing around all over the place. So I don't think I changed the way I taught to accommodate STAR. Let me say that. Mm-hmm. So they called it rigorous, but I think they need to redefine the word rigorous, and then we can, produce maybe a better test for our kiddos.
Yeah, I guess that's the most interesting part about the STAR test is just a freak out where they're like, we shouldn't give it, we shouldn't add. And I know that's not going to change. They're going to keep giving it. So talk about, and I know being in the classroom, like when you try to come up with alternative methods, that's not always met with not the most welcoming arms sometimes, depending on who you're under. So talk about, and I forgot what you call, like, because I remember sitting in on the clubhouse, you were kind of talking about the methods that you came up with. Did you kind of start coming up with those while you were teaching, or in the middle of it, or toward the end?
I think it was a combination. I've been around in education. I like to say that I have this 360-degree view. If you follow me on Clubhouse, I say that often when I speak because I want people to understand my perspective. Before I became an educator, my grandmother started a daycare center when I was 11. And I've been in the room with these children from 11 all the way through undergrad. So even though I majored in marketing, I'm working as a student worker at this daycare where I am teaching these kids. And when I say daycare, they're not infants. These are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds. So they're preschool going into kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And so what's being taught to them is super important, to give them a foundation for kindergarten. So I'm learning how to be a teacher. For me, that was my first teaching experience. From 11 to however old I was when I graduated undergrad, 21. And so that's a really long span to have that type of experience and then go into the classroom. And so no matter how you change it, for me, I've been looking at education since I was 11. So I guess my perspective is so different that when I approach my classroom and activities and stuff like that, I'm pulling from what I knew from that age, what I knew from being a teacher. I've homeschooled my children. I have taught at private schools and charter schools and all of these different, I've studied education internationally. So I have just this 360-degree view of education from all angles. So activities, I can pull those out of my shirt like a clown because it comes so freely for me.
Well, I don't think everybody kind of understands the differences in the different environments. But you're talking charter, you're talking public, schools that are urban, not urban. There's so much stuff that goes on that's different as far as reaching the kids. And sometimes that can be where some teachers get limited because they can work in the same school for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying people should definitely work in different schools because there's some to having a teacher or people that work at the same school and knowing that environment, but working at different schools, you will start seeing how you have to almost switch up, like as far as how you approach just the kids first, then instruct them. It is definitely different. Absolutely. All right, so kind of talk to me a little bit about some of your methods, and then we'll kind of get into Patton. I don't want you to give away all the goods. But talk about some of the methods that you end up developing while you were in the classroom.
I would say definitely one I apply now is trying to give my students bite-sized information. I noticed that the curriculum over the years has been written to give them such large chunks of information at a time that it's really my goal to break them down into these smaller pieces. And we literally do not move on until you have achieved that smaller piece. So I know one skill I was able to kind of take and not only apply to the classroom, but when I'm helping my own children with their work, when I'm helping Patton University students with their assignments, is figuring out a way. I know they call it in the district
Yes.
unpacking the standard, I think is what they say
Oh.
now.
Well, you have chunking,
Unpacking.
scaffolding, all that good stuff. So,
But you don't allow for me to break it down to its bare bones like a student needs. Because most kids, when you think about it, let's say a sixth grader, you're working with a sixth grader in math. Well, unfortunately, math in sixth grade is really hard. It's algebra 1 already, right? So they went from this kind of basic math in elementary school, and then it's a basic understanding of math. They can't even add, subtract in their heads, let alone do multiplication and division. Now you want them to do algebra. I don't see why they don't see the disconnect in that, because it's flaming red. It's like, look at this. They can't even add in some mental math, but you want them to do algebra. And so for me, I've learned to take that information and bring you all the way down. I got to meet you where you are. If you're in sixth grade, I'm sorry you're in sixth grade and you have to do this first grade level work. But if we don't do the first grade level work, we'll never get to the sixth grade level work. And that's kind of what I've learned throughout the years, is I have to meet each student where they are. And then I can build them back up to where they belong.
Differentiated instruction. So talk to me about what kind of led you to leave the classroom and then start Patton University. I don't know, did you leave the classroom just flat dead Patton University, or was it kind of, you started doing it even before you left?
I was definitely doing it before I left. Patton University started while I was in the classroom. So in 2015, I was very much still in the classroom. I was in a self-contained classroom. And that's kind of what created Patton University, because I was in the self-contained classroom and I knew those students inside and out. And so I could go to their parents and say, hey, she needs more help. Meet me on a Saturday, hit, donation to my pocket because I'm here on a Saturday morning helping your student. And it kind of just went from there. More and more parents came to me, I need help, I need help, I need help. And then thus it just taken off since then. I have left the classroom here and there throughout the years. Again, had another daughter, stayed home with her, homeschooled the other kids. So I've been home and able to work Patton University full time. And it's great, it's awesome. But I would miss kind of being on campus. So I've gone back to the campus many times over the years, and still Patton University runs. My husband runs it wonderfully. He's brought his brother on board. So now we're a 3-man team with interns, and it's growing. Even with me back at work, it's growing.
So just talk to me about Patton University, what it is, what y'all do, to those that'll be listening, whether it's parents, anything like that. What do y'all do?
Yeah, sure. It's essentially a full service education service that provides exactly what our students need. It's customized, it's personalized. Every student is different. So every student gets exactly what they need. And people say, well, what's the difference? Why don't I just go to Sylvan Learning Center? Or, why don't I just go to Kumon, and kind of get what I need? Well, most of our students attend schools in the public schools. You've got HISD and Alvin ISD, Pearland ISD, and so on and so forth, and Sylvan is not tailoring that information to fit that curriculum. And so we tailor our instruction to fit the curriculum that they are being taught at school every day. It's not our own, even the curriculum I've written, I wrote Patton University, I've written a curriculum for them. It's a phonics program, and it's still going. It's only got one workbook so far. Really amazing workbook. It'll be available on Amazon soon. But it's tailored to fit how a teacher would teach in the classroom, so that the students are not experiencing this disconnect, because they get all these lovely little workbooks at home. You went to the dollar store and you bought all these little great books, and those are awesome. Don't get me wrong. They awesome, but they don't look like what I learned in school. And so now when I go to school, that information is not transferring over to what my teacher said.
I will say that's the one thing I see. I was telling someone a few months ago, I was talking about a lot of the skills, because in a sense, I know, like you said, you kind of start the kids where they're at the beginning and then kind of build them up toward, I guess, the more rigorous content. What I found with a lot of resources is that you might have one resource that's probably too low rigor. It's good for teaching the low rigor stuff. And you got some stuff that's way too hard. It's the test prep type stuff. And, what most times ends up happening, people just teach from that one resource. and the kids don't get everything they're supposed to get, because you can't start with the hard stuff because they don't have the basic skills to even, analyze or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's great that, you're coming up with a workbook as far as with the phonics and building them up that way. I think that's pretty cool. So talk about how that business, go ahead.
I just said thank you.
Talk about how that business has grown. Like, somebody, I guess, is an inspiring entrepreneur, I guess you want to call it, myself. How has that business grown over the years, and like the challenges that come along with it?
Well, again, it has definitely grown to something I didn't expect it to grow to. Like I said, my husband is now fully on board. My brother-in-law is on board, and they've taken it to a whole nother place. They're teaching blockchain and cryptocurrency. And my husband wrote a handbook on intro to cryptocurrency and blockchain. And they're, getting things to be sold on the blockchain. It's a lot. It has taken a completely, it's technically an educational tech company now, because we've added that tech piece. And to be honest, growth, no, it happens gradually, and it happens when it's supposed to happen. Like, it's just everything just kind of kept coming and coming, but it's coming in this, in this kind of cyclical order that just makes so much sense, how we just keep adding things on. And I noticed that the one advice I give anybody is just keep going. Don't stop. It's going to be little periods in there where it's like, man, this is not making any money. I don't have any clients, or, how do I get my tutorial business off the ground because no one knows about me? That's okay. Just keep going. Just keep going. When you get that one student, you work that one, you show off that one, you show what you're doing with that one, and then next there'll be 2, and then 3. That's just how it goes. I started with one child who paid by donation, and now we have, I don't even know how many students, coming to learn. And that's who we target. We target learners. So I didn't want to put myself in this box where I'm only helping pre-K through 12th grade students. No, I help anybody who wants to learn. We've got GED prep classes on the weekends, and SAT, prep class on the weekends. I had one student who was working on her writing. She's from Columbia. And she's got to be in her 40s, if not older. She's from Columbia. She needed help writing in English. Met with her on Saturday. So it's all about, we teach learners. So anyone who wants to learn.
How is it, being an educator, and I'm going to be quiet about this question. Being an educator, and obviously we know our profession and what normally dominates the pedagogy and things like that. How has it kind of been a minority in education trying to come into a space like this, where essentially your primary focus is the teaching? There's one thing I always feel, a lot of times they might look toward us for equity and all this type of stuff. Being someone that's talking more about pedagogy and really just teaching the kids, how has that been? Have you run into some challenges with it?
I can't say I have, because I've always been at a school where most of the people look like me. That's important for me. I can say that I have been in a space where people didn't look like me, and their, like you said, their pedagogy, their approach to it anyway, was a little, it didn't match with mine. And honestly, how did I handle it? I had to leave. I had to separate myself from that, because I don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing. If that works for you and your school and how you educate children, by all means. That just means I need to remove myself from your space and find the space where our view on education, more so matches and aligns. And honestly, I don't think that they necessarily, my presence was welcome there much anyway. So, me leaving, I didn't have to try to fit in, because it was no fitting in. It was just better that I just exit, because, I noticed that they really don't care to have us in those type of spaces.
And I definitely wanted to ask that question, because I know there might be some young educators because as a young educator, person that's been educated, I know what's up. So then, it's probably good for some of our younger educators probably to understand it. And I want you to talk a little bit about, I saw that you're an adjunct professor. Talk about what you do with that.
I am, here we are. And I'm not doing it right now, but I really enjoyed it at my time at a community college here in the suburban area of Houston. And I actually taught business management at the prison here outside of Houston. And my students were, I mean, I don't know what they did, of course, but we called them offenders. And so I had student offenders, excellent group of men, a classroom full of men, maybe about 30 each class. And I like it. I was able to put that marketing degree to work, that management degree to work. So I adjunct sometimes teaching marketing and management. That was my first time in the prison. Again, I enjoyed my time there very much. If I can find another position that way one day in the future, I would definitely do it again.
Okay. I mean, it seems like you just teach everything. It's like, man, she's like, it doesn't even matter. Like, hey, you need right now. All right, cool. I got it. Like, okay, I was like, most people kind of find themselves in the lane. That's kind of interesting that you just teach whatever. But it's just weird. Like, if you got that pedigree, it's just weird. You just find your way into doing it. Like, it seems like as soon as you step into the classroom, it's like, man, I've been around this my whole life. It just comes natural to you, I guess.
It comes
natural. So how did your business and everything adjust to COVID-19? Obviously, that changes where you can't do as much in person. So how did that shift during COVID-19, or we're technically still in it, but, adjust what you had to do during that time?
Funny is, if I take a step back, it actually allowed it to thrive even more. I was actually trying to do more virtual sessions pre-COVID. Maybe 2 years before COVID, I was trying to get more students to join me online, because I had students in Florida and I had students in, I think California is where she stays. And so I was already doing it online because I had students who were clear across the country. So I was trying that out, and really parents didn't understand. They were like, no, you need to come over. You need to be sitting right here next to her while she does her homework, or helping her with her homework. Or we need to come and meet you at, wherever I would ask them to meet. And boom, COVID happens, and you don't have a choice but to meet me online. And so they were able to see, oh, this was simple. This was easy. She was able to get her, lesson. You didn't have to wait on anybody. You just popped online. We got it done, and they walked away. So I think that in the end, they saw, online learning really wasn't that bad when it's this one-on-one. I can't speak for how teachers ran their classrooms during a normal school day, because that was heavy.
That hybrid is a beast. It is. So let's talk a little bit about the future. Of course, your business is thriving, and I saw now you take a role at Arrow Academy. So what kind of led you to take that job, and then what will you be doing in that role?
It actually fell in my lap, but I'm glad it did. I wanted something different. Working at the district, I have a love-hate relationship with working for large districts. I did want the opportunity to go somewhere where it was a smaller environment, and my prayers were answered, lo and behold. I am an instructional coach at Arrow, and even my boss likes to say I'm an instructional coach / assistant principal, because we're the only admin on the campus. It's just him and I. And so I do have to take up that role, whether I like it or not. So it is crazy though, because, I was instructional coach the year before as well at my last campus. And so I was able to just transfer into the role pretty okay. They do things a lot differently at Arrow, but I welcome it. I welcome that change. I welcome that learning. I really enjoy learning there. It's an amazing group of teachers, amazing group of students. This is my first time on a campus just where it really felt like a family in its entirety. It's not these small pockets of families that you make, at the larger district. Oh, I'm cool with the 4th grade teacher and the 1st grade teacher. No, this entire campus is a family. And it really feels like that's all you're doing. You're going and you're kicking it with your family every day. And then you're getting work done and you're educating students at the same time.
Oh, as I kind of like listened to you when you did the clubhouse, I think you were talking about your program, and I was like, man, this is pretty dope stuff. I'm like, man, more people need to know about this. And I hadn't started back up my podcast at that point. But then, I kind of started back trying to follow you or whatever. You were finally able to come on now. Have you thought about maybe trying to put yourself more out there? Like, I know people call themselves experts and things like that, where on a more national scale, where more people know who Ashley Patton is?
Absolutely. I'm still growing, and I probably have to do take a few confidence pills. But yes, I can see that absolutely in the future. I'm trying to be more vocal so that I feel like when you want to be known as an expert, well, you got to prove yourself as an expert.
Right.
So there's more talking that has to be had, you know, even with Clubhouse. I took a step back from Clubhouse because Clubhouse is addicting. And I have 2 little children who are like, mommy, look at me, but I'm trying to listen to Clubhouse. So, you know, there's some boundaries that I had to set there. You know, I think that's social media though in general, but with Clubhouse, you're expecting to talk for about 30 minutes. Maybe I'll talk for an hour. Then you look up at the clock and it's been 3-4 hours later and I'm still talking.
I will say, I tell people like, I hadn't been on Clubhouse as much lately, but I know the times I have been, even in the teacher groups, I said the thing I kind of like is when you're on like maybe Facebook or anything like this, a lot of times the teacher groups tend to get a little bit more complaining and whiny or whatever, but on Clubhouse, people are just about the work. Like I just like, that's what I love. People just talking about, well, it's like the Clubhouse you gave or other people the people that love like talking about it. So I can see, as a teacher, it gets a little addicting in that way, because if you listen to all this, it kind of encourages you, because you don't always hear that. You're not hearing the people who just love talking about the profession, because, you know, most time they talk about other stuff or, you know, the other side of teaching. I know you mentioned about the love-hate relationship with large districts. I was like, boy, I was like, man, this is, yeah. So I get that. All right. So what I always like to end with is a lesson. We're teachers, so you always want to teach a lesson. So what would you tell anybody that kind of want to take your path? Like, obviously you've tried some different methods, you know, the ups and downs of that. So what would you tell someone who wants to, you know, take your path?
I would say do it in your own way. Don't let anybody create that teaching path for you, because it is a path. It is a journey, and you'll meet a lot of people along the way. You'll teach a lot of students along the way. You'll make a lot of difference along the way. Do it to where it's comfortable for you. If you find a school and you love it and you want to stay there for 10 years, do it. Do it. Or if you get somewhere and it's not comfortable, you don't like it, you don't agree, don't be afraid to walk away. That would be my biggest takeaway. Along the way, I've met a lot of teachers who were just scared to leave, thought they wouldn't make it somewhere else, thought they wouldn't find another job. Teaching jobs come a dime a dozen. Go where you are valued and you feel comfortable and you just feel like you're contributing to the success of a campus.
Okay, so I guess to end, could you tell everybody where they can find you, or maybe people that need somebody to come in and do a little coaching or some workshops or something like that? So where can people find you?
Yes, I'm actually working on a workshop right now. I'm writing it out as we speak. But they can find me on Instagram, Ashley B. Patton, Twitter, Ashley B. Patton, Clubhouse, Ashley B. Patton. I don't change. Facebook, Ashley B. Patton, Patton UniverCity. So it ends with a C instead of an S, because we are in the heart of the best city in the country, Houston, Texas, H-Town. So that's us.
All right. So guys, I want to thank y'all for joining me for another episode of Phenomenal Conversations with Mr. Short. This is Ashley B. Patton. Thanks for joining us.